Welcome once again, dear viewers, to this special broadcast brought to you Foundation in collaboration with Amaqhawe TV. As we have promised, we continue to honor our heroes and heroines of our struggle for our liberation. Today, dear viewers, marks the 49th anniversary since the youth of South Africa decided to take a charge and charge police forces with only their lids of their bins in hand on their faces to cover themselves from the tear gas fumes. On this day or this period, one of the many names in the forefront, one of the leaders who were there leading in these skirmishes was our hero, Comrade Ethu. Today, we have the honor to host Mr. D. Mashinini, yes, the brother to Ethu Mashinini, who is also the freedom fighter in his own right. Mr. D. Mashinini left the country in 1977 to pursue politics by other means. Welcome, Mr. Mashinini, in our program.
Thank you very much, Comrade Lennox. Good afternoon to your viewers and your listeners.
I thank you very much, Comrade. You've given me the permission to call you Comrade. Now, going forward, I'm going to refer to you as Comrade D. Mashinini. I hope we are very, very comfortable with this. Mr. D. Mashinini, Comrade D. Mashinini, forward to D. Mashinini. My name is Lennox Class. I know at some point in time, we used to call one another with other names. Now, officially, I'm telling you and introducing myself to you as Lennox Class. And we also extend our appreciation to our viewers for allowing us into their sitting room as we go through this program. Dear viewers, one day we promise we'll make this program very interactive, meaning that we will allow you to call and ask questions to many of our guests that tend to come into this program. Mtate D. Mashinini, I know at some point around 1977, you left the country to pursue politics by other means. Just for a few seconds and by breaking the ice. Were you by chance following your elder brother, or the apartheid system was closing down on you? What led you to leave the country?
Comrade Lennox, the police in 1976, when Ethu pronounced to the media and to the world that he was the leader of the June 16 movement, and that was the evening of June 16, 1976. He then started running away from home because the police were pursuing him left, right, and center. But in a few weeks' time after June 16, he obviously, like any other human being, wanted to meet his family, wanted to meet his father, wanted to meet his mother, wanted to meet his siblings. You know, then we were a family of 11 boys and twin girls. We were a large family in the whole of Soweto, recorded by the municipality as the biggest family in Soweto. So I started the actions of making it easier for him to enter the premises, which was our home, which means I would walk around a couple of streets around our home, look for cars that we were suspicious of having policemen inside, look for people who were hanging around, standing around the corners, trying to identify who Ethu was and when is he going home, so that they can rush into the house and arrest him. So I did that for so many times. He was able to come home. He was able to come and meet his family, his mother in particular, whom he was very close to. And that At some point, I don't know how it leaked, but there was a unit of policemen who were now looking for me because, according to them, I knew where Ethu was. I knew when Ethu was coming. I knew when Ethu was going to leave. And that created a big problem to me. But also, on the other hand, I had also started a force of young township fellows where we were taking instructions from the Soweto Students Representative Council. Some of the instructions I was taking them from my home, and we were implementing these instructions during the day and during the night. So I got into serious conflict with the police, and at some point I obviously had to leave.
Wow. You partly responded to what was to be my second question, but in any event, in honor of the parents, I feel I must ask this question. Mr. D, it has been 49 years. I don't know how much of that you can still recall. Please take us through to the days leading to this event that lit up the world. Anything you remember about yourself, your brothers, your sisters, certainly your parents. I'm trying to imagine what was going through to your parents in particular. I'm talking about just few hours or days leading to this event, because certainly you know what was going on. What was going on to the parents?
Comrade Lennox, I must put it straight to you that prior to June 16, but the same year, there was a fellow that used to visit my home in the middle of the night, somewhere around 2 a.m. And he would knock at the window, and I am the one who used to hear the knock, and I would wake up and open the curtain, and there'll be this gentleman outside wearing a black coat and a hat, and lifting the collar of the coat outside, and he would just tell me, "Wake Titi up, I need to speak to him." After 7 at the windows, I walked out to these two gentlemen, Titi and this other fellow. I asked this man, "Who are you? What is your name?" To me, my name.
Wow.
Oh, that was the beginning of the end. So it turns out
Wow.
that Steve Biko has been working on the young Tsietsi machine in the for a couple of months in the year 1976. Steve Biko was at the house almost every second or third day of the week. In the middle of the night, they would stand outside until 6 a.m. when Tsietsi walks back into the house to take a bath and go to school. But that was my confirmation to say Steve Biko or Tsietsi Mashinini is a direct product of the late Steve Biko. Going to my parents and the rest of the family, I can tell you now, and I can bet myself, we did not know anything. On the night of the 15th of June, 1976, when I went home after a soccer match, I found a number of young people in our yard at home. They had big banners, things that looked like bed sheets, that looked like curtains, white in color, but quite sizable. And they had huge marking pens or paint, black paint, and they were writing stuff on these pieces of cloths. And amongst them was "Down with Africans," those sort of banners. And I came in, I kneeled down, I also took a brush of paint, but I asked my brother, "What is happening?" He said, "You are too young to even understand. Don't worry, just paint. Just look at the little paper next to you and continue to paint some of these things. And tomorrow, wake up and go to school. We will come to your school before 8 o'clock, and you will understand what is happening." So my mother woke up the same morning, June 16, went to work. My father went to work early evening. When they came back and they saw Soweto was burning, there was a lot of smoke in Soweto. There were trucks that are burning. There were bottle stores that were burning. Things that were burning. Little did they know that this was the responsibility of their son.
Wow. Mr. D, there's no way I'm not going to ask this question. You invoked the name of one of the icons of this struggle, Steve Biko. The question that I have, 50 years from now, Mr. T, 50 years from now, all the people who were part of these skirmishes will be dead. We will be dead to tell these stories. What are we doing to make sure that our children and the children of their children get to study about these things as part of their syllabus? There is a country, it's called Guinea-Bissau. We hear this from the former president, Thabo Mbeki, during one of his lectures in Tanzania, that this country, from their foundation phase of their learners to university, they teach the South African liberation struggle in class to make sure that the liberation of South Africa can never be forgotten. But why don't we do, in your opinion, the same in South Africa? I'm hearing this thing or this encounter of Comrade Steve and Tsietsi for the first time right now. And I thought I knew almost everything that has to be known about our struggle. Why are we not teaching this in our schools?
Well, there's an English saying that says, the victor writes history. There is not only Stephen Bantu Biko, there is Mangaliso Sobukwe. There are a lot of heroes in the Republic of South Africa that have fought against apartheid virtually all their lives. But to respect and to the detriment of ourselves, to the detriment of children. As a result, to this Saturday, I'm going to Soweto. We are hosting a about Tsietsi Mashinini. I'm battling with a few publishers to publish this book, but this book will be published by. In that book, I am going to the deepest end about the life and times of Tsietsi Mashinini. I'm touching a lot on Steve Biko, who was his mentor. I'm touching a lot on Abraham Tiro, who was his immediate mentor. I'm touching a lot on Comrade Drake Coker, who was his overall mentor amongst them all. It is very critical that we begin to correct ourselves as Black South Africans, as freedom fighters, to say we cannot define those that came before us and those that will come after us. I mean, our history goes back to Bartman, when Black people were abused and so on and so forth. And only in 1994 we were able to come out of this political quandrum. But the people that contributed to it, I believe, and I sincerely believe so, must be given the rights that they deserve. Lennox, 1976, when we arrived at Hector Peterson intersection, just over 500 children were killed in that morning alone. And I'm saying to you, the 500 that were killed is one thing, but a couple of hundreds of them are still sitting on wheelchairs, are walking on hospital walking sticks, and so on and so forth. And nobody has even said a word about them. To me, that is an insult to society. And I sincerely hope someday we can correct ourselves so that we become a better nation.
Mr. D, we are talking about hectare square. I've been thinking about this. Here is this the time who fell in the bullets of the apartheid South Africa. Now there's this monument. I do not remember seeing the monument of Ethu there. The person that led this young man who ultimately met his death. I'm raising this question because I guess I'm expecting too much from the foundation. I know the Ethu Foundation. I feel you cannot have that site and do not have the statue of Ethu Mashinini overshadowing everything that is happening there. I want to get the sense from you. Is there a thought from the foundation to erect something along those lines? And to take from what you have just said, several tens of the that the foundation can make sure that it's taking place, because there's a big space there. What is the foundation?
The Ethu Mashinini Foundation has started very deep and interesting projects to try and correct the wrongs of our past. There is a statue of Ethu Mashinini which I built myself with my own money a couple of years back when I was still in the construction industry. The statue is sitting outside Maurice Isaacson. But as I confirm with you, there is nothing in the June 16 movement, whether it's a library, or it's a museum, or it's a building that has been issued by the state and is referred to as the Ethu Mashinini statue or library or school or university or anything. Mainly, Comrade Lennox, because we choose who do we want to celebrate as the victors. And I don't want to lambast, you know, the ruling party or the ANC and so on and so forth. I'm just saying it is unfair for us to select those that we like to be the owners of our history. If you go on March 21st, you go to Sharpeville, since the Sharpeville massacre on the 21st of March, you will find that the leaders and members of the ANC will enter the cemetery where 69 members of the PAC, members of the community of Sharpeville, were massacred. Members of the Pan-Africanist Congress. But the ANC today will occupy the stage, will close the PAC outside of the cemetery, and they will do whatever they are doing there. And then only after they have done what they have to do, they will open the gates and walk away, and then the PAC comrades will also enter the facility and do what they were there to do. I am just saying it is incorrect to try to wish away June 16, 1976 away from the history of the struggle. It is unfair to try and wish away the Sharpeville massacre away from our own struggle. We cannot select those that we love to be the ones that that represent the struggle for humankind in South Africa. We need to come together. I've been lecturing around this matter for so long. So slowly and slowly, I think I'm beginning to see a little bit of change, and I'm happy about it. But I think it's critical that we all begin to recognize. You're telling me about if our children are learning anything about June 16, 1976. Frankly, the answer is simple. They are not learning anything. If you ask them about 1976, they are saying it's a public holiday. They actually ask you, holiday. I mean, think about it. It doesn't make sense because they cannot relate to June 16 and its original meaning to society itself.
Well, we continue with our broadcast where we honor our heroes and heroines. Amaqhawe Ethu Foundation, together with Mpumakapa TV, recognizes all those who've taken time to contribute in the liberation of this country. These will be the members of the PAC, members of AZAPO, members of the ANC, for Fairness and Justice. At intervals, we invite them, we talk to them, because we understand and we know that they played a role in the liberation of this country. Today, we are working where we work. It's because of people like Tsetsi, people like Prof. Mangaliso Sobukwe, people like Steve, people like Joseph. All these people, Abo Mamudrina, contributed, and unfortunately, they've taken a journey to their ancestral land. They will be very, very disappointed if they can get a sense that some of those who contributed in the liberation of this country are not being recognized. And Mr. T, fast forward, going out, not necessarily to join your brother, politics by other means, because the enemy was closing even towards you. I'm trying to get into the headspace of your parents. Now it's not only Tsetsi, D leaves the country. What impact your parents?
Let me say by the time I left South Africa on the 4th of January 1977, I was the third member of the family to have left the country. First was Tsetsi, then was the eldest brother, Rox Mutiti Mashinini, who was also a commander of Umkhonto weSizwe. So 3 of us left, and then about a year later, another one left, but he went on a church retreat to Australia, but ended up in Oxford University in London. So 4 children out of one family left. Look, I can tell you straight, my father and my mother took this one very hard. They both started getting sick. The police would never leave our home. There were many instances where they would just pull out chairs and sit under a tree and never leave, and they will change their shifts inside our yard. Some will be in the house, some will be fighting with my mother, and so on and so forth. So life in the Machine family was so unbearable. But the number of fellows that were left in the home were pretty young, were not able to understand the state of affairs, were not able to think about going to exile, were pretty young, but they grew into the movement, they grew into the ANC, they grew and so on and so forth, and they became revolutionaries at a later stage. But I can tell you now, the body makeup of my father and the body makeup of my father was battered by the police. By the time we came back from exile, I sincerely pitied them so much. I could see the pain in their eyes and the joy of their children coming back from exile.
You see, as we are talking now, D, as you're talking right now, the way your home was turned into some kind of a base by apartheid South Africa. Literally, they used to park and sleep here, waiting for you, Tsetsi and Comrade Rox, and anyone who was working with them. You remind me of another family similar to yours, in Kabeja, Grina family. Grina family, that old lady who was herself harassed by the apartheid system, most of her children died. She could not even bury some of them because it's either they died in skirmishes coming from outside fighting with the Boers. One died in Cape Town fighting with the Boers, the fellow I trained with personally. And the other one died, he was the instructor for MK in Tanzania. The other one died as he was coming inside to fight. We're talking Mzima Sigcina, Titi Gcina, Boy Sigcina, and Kululu Gcina, from one family. You can imagine what was going through to your family, I guess, is the same thing that was going on to that family. And I know Amaqhawe are trying to make a monument out of that home. The reason I'm raising this is the thinking from either Tsietse Foundation to turn the Tsietse Mashinini's home into some kind of a monument, heritage site. Is there a thinking along those lines?
Well, unfortunately, Lennox, the 3 streets away from my home in central Western Jabavu in Soweto was the Jabulani Hostel. Now, you would remember that the fights between the communities and the hostel residents started exactly in 1976. And because of the proximity of this hostel in Jabulani to my home, the skirmishes between the community and the hostel dwellers was because the hostel dwellers, every morning they woke up, they armed themselves, they started marching in a war formation towards the Tsietse Mashinini home. So, on the other hand, the communities were defending the Tsietse Mashinini home through their own lives, and hundreds of people were killed during those skirmishes. So, at some point, just before 1990, frankly, because of, if you remember, in Johannesburg, in Soweto, in other places, where people were banned in buses and in trains and whatever. So we had to sell that house so that we can guarantee the safety of my mother and my father. And we moved away from our original home. So there is no home that we can make or fortify it into a museum for the Tsietse Mashinini. But there is the name Tsietse Mashinini that we will forever live with.
Wow. Yeah, I wish something can be done. I so wish. In fact, even this old lady I'm talking about, she had to sell her home and move out of that area. Be done to go and buy that house. Well, just there on that note, dear viewers, let's go for a short break and don't change the channel. We'll be back with you in a short second. Well, welcome back to this segment, which is the second segment of our talk and broadcast with Mr. D. Mashinini, and freedom fighter in his own right, and the brother of Tsietse Mashinini. And right now, we're trying to retrace the footsteps of what happened on that fateful day, June 16, 1976. If you have just joined us, but don't worry, this program is repeated every Sunday. You have not missed anything. Mr. D, looking at what we have spoken about, it involves a great deal of sacrifice from the people who are in the forefront of these skirmishes, people like Tsietse Mashinini. Now, I want to get the sense from you, do you think the youth of today do recognize and appreciate the sacrifices made by the youth of 1976? What is your perception around that?
Well, Comrade Lennox, the youth of today, I believe they are segmented into many and several issues that they face today in their lives. Number one, there's a lot of, or let me say, hundreds of thousands of young Black South Africans who have found space in universities, and they are going to school and they're graduating. And I think it's a feeling that we need to appreciate in its totality, because remember, Tsietsi Mashinini was trying to correct the injustices of Bantu education in particular and apartheid in general. So if you go into Soweto via the entrance around Paraguanath Hospital, there is a UJ facility there. I was impressed earlier on when we came back from South Africa to see hundreds of Black young South Africans coming out of a university that is inside Soweto. But that is one thing. Our youth is also faced with a lot of crime and a lot of alcohol abuse, and you know, those sort of negativities of the world that we live in today. But broadly speaking, I don't think those that are sufficiently informed are doing their best to lift up the state of mind of young Black South Africans in townships and also in South Africa. We are not doing enough. Frankly, we are doing as little as we can. That is why you come up, you meet up a question that says, why did you fight with the police on a public holiday? Are you guys mad or something? It's because there is no sufficient understanding of history. The history that our children are learning at schools today is not compounded by live activities, by live epochs, by things that happened in the Republic. We have since been bombarded by a lot of information in 1994 around those who came from exile and around those who came from Robben Island, the likes of Nelson Mandela and Govan Mbeki and Ahmed Kathrada and Walter Sisulu and so on. But soon after that, there was never ever anything substantial about who are we, how do we identify ourselves, and so on and so forth. Like we can repeat again and say the likes of Tsietsi Mashinini have disappeared in history, the likes of Steve Biko have disappeared, the likes of Sobukwe have disappeared, and many other heroes and heroines of our struggle have disappeared. So I frankly pity the youth of today under the circumstances under which they live. But hopefully we can change the way things are today and hope for the best.
Mr. D, this is a really worrying factor. I know you have not even exhausted the names of the people that played a very critical role for us to be where we are today. I'm trying to battle, to try and establish what is it that can be done. Remember, we believe people can only die when the living forget about those that have departed before them. Fortunately, people like, or comrades like Tsietsi, have people like you who will make sure that even though it's not enough, we flood the discourse only in June, which is very, very bad. But there are families where they do not have the luxury of D, who was himself an activist, who will make sure that the names of his brothers who fought for this freedom are not going to be forgotten. What is it that you think, Comrade D, Tatu D, Mr. Mashinini, should South Africa do to make sure that the names of these heroes and heroines can never be forgotten. What is it that we need to do?
Well, I suppose there's a lot of things that we have to do, but key are amongst them. We need to revise our education system. There is no other avenue where young people receive information except through their schools. Now, if today's set book, that's what we used to call it when I was growing up, or history book, does not have a chapter or chapters around June 16, 1976, around the Sharpeville massacre, around the formation of liberation movements, around the leadership of the liberation movements, around the lives and times of people in exile and prison and elsewhere. If we shy away from that history, we're not doing justice to our people. Let's put it this way. We all grew up, I think maybe in the greater part of what used to be called the Greater Transvaal many decades ago. We were taught about King Shaka Zulu in the history books. In the whole of Transvaal, we can go across all the tribes of Greater Johannesburg and Greater Gauteng. Everybody knows who is Shaka Zulu because that history was pumped into us until we understood it. We also understood how a chap like Jan van Riebeeck arrived in South Africa, how he dominated us, and how white Afrikaners at the time took over our land through the barrel of the gun and so on and so forth, because it was taught in history. It was pumped into us. We are shying away today in the new South Africa, post-1994. We are shying away from telling our own people what actually happened to us, not to other people, to us, Black South Africans. We are avoiding that question. We are avoiding the narrative. We are avoiding to put it in the... They have said it so many times that if you want to hide anything from a black man, put it in the book, because blacks will not read any book. We are failing to encourage our children to go into libraries, to read. We are allowing our kids to go into a lot of TikTok and a lot of technology without knowing where they're coming from, where they are, and where they are going. That is unfortunate. And until we resolve those issues, the country is not going forward. All over the continent, Nigerians are Nigerians because they know themselves. If you go to Ghana, they know that themselves. If you go to Burkina Faso, they know themselves. They know Thomas Sankara. If you go to Angola, but what is wrong with South Africa? Those are the questions that we need to answer. And I repeat again, there could be various ways of going about the solution of this problem, but the critical path is putting it in the books, in the schools, in the syllabus. Thank you.
Mr. D, I really want your opinion on this. You see, in 1994, we can point on various things that you can say are the battles we have won as a country. Through Tatu Madiba, we thought we have buried apartheid or racism, and we were happy and celebrating, and the world was celebrating with us that racism is the thing of the past. Now, when we look at some of these battles that we have won, it looks like from where I'm sitting, we have taken off our foot from the pedal. Today in South Africa, in our parliament, you have political parties that wish to reverse those gains. They are telling us, South Africans, no to Bella. They're telling us those schools that are using Afrikaans as the medium of instruction are not going to accommodate no students who do not want to be taught in Afrikaans. We're talking about schools. They are staying in areas that have been integrated. These parties are telling us, let's forget about how BEE is implemented. They are saying, we do not want BEE in South Africa. They're in parliament. These parties are telling us, the friends that decided to stick with us when we're fighting for our liberation should be dropped, are not good friends for South Africa. They're telling us, these people, they're telling us that NHI, a program that seeks to ensure that every South African, when sick, they can get the medical attention. They are saying no. And this is 2025, over 30 years of attaining our freedom. What do you think is the problem? Where did we go wrong? Why do you think these parties and these people have grown to tell us what we can or we cannot do in our country? Where did we go wrong?
Well, Comrade Lonex, I need to start answering this question in a very strange way. In 1942, a commission was set up by the Afrikaners. It was called the Kennedy Commission. The Kennedy Commission was instructed to find out why are white Afrikaners poor? Why are white Afrikaners poor? They gave them 4 years. They put a lot of money into the Kennedy Commission. The commission did their job and came back with recommendations. One of the first recommendations was that the white people are poor because they don't have land. So remove Africans from all fertile land and give that land to the white farmers. Establish white-only banks. Establish a process through which you will supply white farmers with seeds and fertilizers and implements and tools and everything. The same year of the recommendations, 4 years later, black people were removed from all fertile land in the Republic of South Africa and dumped elsewhere. That's how white people took over our country. Now, I'm using this example to say, when you do something and you are a government and you are in power and you are doing it for the people, you cannot be shy away from that. I asked a few of my comrades the other day that, why is a similar thing like the Kennedy Commission too late? How come we are not saying, Comrade Lennox, can you go and find out why black people are poor and come up with a recommendation and put money into you and we implement those recommendations? Why is that too late or unreasonable today? Because it's a commission of inquiry into the poverty of a certain group of people. Now, I don't want to go into the NHI and those sort of things and what people are telling us who our friends should be and who our enemies should be and so on and so forth. I am saying until we set up a government that is formidable, that is based on the will of the people, we will not move an inch. Afrikaans is still taught to African children today. 50 years after 1976, it's still happening. And if you don't pass Afrikaans, your chances of you going to the next level are very slim, because Afrikaans still dominates the education system of the Republic of South Africa. So all these problems, why are we carrying them on our shoulders as we go forward with our lives? Why are we not putting these problems away and solving them so that the next generations don't have to carry the same problems on their shoulders as they lead their lives? Those are the key problems that we need to implement. You cannot lead a government at any level when you are not decisive and you don't take care of your own people. The the document that we loved so much in exile, which was then called the Freedom Charter. I mean, you think about it, you know it. We rehearsed that document throughout our lives, but the unfortunate happened when they went to Codesa, when they sat with the whites to negotiate our fate. The white people told them, put the Freedom Charter in the bin and do not open that bin. And that's exactly what they did. So how do we expect it to go forward? If you go to black townships, think about it. Those townships were built over 70 years ago. Our people are still cramped in those houses. We have even built worse houses than we can ever think about in terms of what is termed the RDP. I'm just saying, if we had given the Freedom Charter a chance to survive, just a chance, because the Freedom Charter encompasses every human being that lives in the Republic of South Africa. South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white. Full stop. How come we're not able to achieve this? The problems that you are mentioning around our society and our friends and our allies and everything are mainly because of the absence of the Freedom Charter, sir.
Oh, talking about the Freedom Charter, this year we are marking the 70th anniversary of that historic document. Let's hope those that are driving the program of the government will find a way to speed up the implementation of the Freedom Charter. Now, back to Comrade Ethu's foundation. What are some of the current priorities of the foundation?
Okay, Comrade Knox, the 50th anniversary of June 16 is coming up next year. This weekend, we are just doing, on the 14th of June, we're doing the 10th annual Tsitsi Mashinini lecture at Maurice Isaacson in Soweto at 1 o'clock. It is the 10th anniversary of that lecture. And then we have been working since last year to generate programs for the 50th anniversary of June 16, 1976, which is next year, 2026. Amongst the programs that we have identified, we want to start off the year on the 27th of January next year with hosting a birthday for the late Tsitsi Mashinini, who would be 69. That is the one. And then we hope it will be followed by a gala dinner in his name and a golf tournament in his name. But then the critical programs that are coming up next year, the first one is to find 50 surviving living victims of the bullets of 1976 that were shot by police. We want to find 50 living survivors of the bullets of the police of 1976. And we are working with the government in close cooperation to please, once and for all, first time in 50 years, recognize these victims of the bullets. I know a lot of them in Soweto and Alex and other townships. A lot of them are still on their wheelchairs. They are old, they are sick, they are about to die. I'm spearheading a campaign to assist these people whilst they're still surviving, to find solace of some one or the other from government or from the state. That is the critical thing. The second best thing, we want to do a cleansing ceremony at the Hector Peterson Memorial. That intersection at the Hector Peterson Memorial, where over 500 students were shot and killed by the police. We want to do the grandest, and I mean it, the grandest cleansing ceremony of Soweto, of the entire country. In the most natural way, a cleansing ceremony is being conducted, which means traditional healers on the one side, religious leaders on the one side, spilling blood from from some animal and impepo kwelqala iBhayibheli kwelqala, whatever that's got to be done, it's got to be done once and for all. And people are very excited about it, and we're taking it by the horns. The third critical issue is that we want to re-image the 1976 march, which means the 8 schools that were leading the march on June 16, 1976. We are mobilizing those schools, we are training the youngsters in those schools. About the way forward. Those are the programs of the year 2026.
Very, very engaging.
The last one, I'm very sorry. We are also undertaking a campaign, and Comrade Lennox, I believe, and I think whatever township you live in, every 5th or 7th or 10th house, there are 2 solid walking sticks. Walking sticks that if you are hit by a car or you are injured on the leg, they give you at a clinic or at a hospital. There are walking sticks behind the wardrobes, behind the boxes, there are walking sticks in our homes, in all our townships. But this time we are targeting only Soweto. We are saying, please give those walking sticks to the children that are going to school. Let them pack them at the school. We'll come and collect them. We have identified hundreds and hundreds of elderly people, of people with broken bones and broken limbs who don't have those things, and we want to give them back to people who deserve them the most. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Maybe finally, before we part ways, Ndate D, most of the foundations that I've come to contact with, they are involved in what they call national dialogue. Is Ethu Foundation part of the planned national dialogue by all the foundations that have come together? National dialogue that will go back to the drawing board and say, what is it that we need to do to heal what is going on in South Africa? Almost along the same lines of the adoption of Freedom Charter. Is your foundation or the foundation of Ethu Mashinini involved in that?
Yes, sir. If I remember well, early this year, the Thabo Mbeki Foundation initiated a dialogue with several other foundations, including the Robert Sobukwe Foundation, the Steve Biko Foundation, the Ethu Mashinini Foundation. There were about 11 or 12 different foundations in that gathering, and the dialogue was all about what needs to be done, what needs to be changed, and so on and so forth. We are not leading any dialogues at that level in that regard, but we participate in dialogues of that nature, and we would like to continue participating.
Thank you. Any final message to the people of South Africa, Mr. D. Mashinini, in terms of the work and in terms of the appeal, in terms of the request that we have for South Africans?
Well, the only request I'm going to make is that the 50th anniversary of June 16, it's a milestone in the history of the Republic. And I think South Africans must take it that way and begin to find space within the youth movement, including the broader sector of society, but to make the 50th anniversary of June 16, the role of the youth in our struggle, the role of the youth going forward as society, critically important and supported by both state and people alike. That is my message. Thank you.
Thank you very much, D. Mashinini. On that note, we've come to the end of our program. That was D. Mashinini, the brother to Ethu Mashinini. It is in honor of persons and the freedom fighters like Ethu Mashinini that left us behind, that many of us will continue to keep alive the spirit from which our liberation was born. Comrades, dear friends, dear viewers, dear listeners, we will stand strong and tall and claim our heritage with the pride and continue to confront our challenges. On that note, let's meet again next week, next time. I thank you.